Let us open up our Bibles in the Gospel according to Mark, chapter 5. I'm going to read a few verses and they're going to come up on the screen pretty soon. Starting with verse 21. It says, when Jesus had again crossed over the boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue rulers, named Jairus, came there. Seeing Jesus, he fell on his feet and pleaded earnestly with him. My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so she will be healed and live. So Jesus went with him. I'm going to skip to verse 35 to 43. While Jesus was still speaking, some men came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue ruler. Your daughter is dead, they said. Why bother the teacher anymore? Ignoring what they said, Jesus told the synagogue ruler, don't be afraid, just believe it. He did not let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue ruler, Jesus saw commotion with people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep. But they laughed at him. After he put them all out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha kum, which means, little girl, I say to you, get up. Immediately the girl stood up and walked around. She was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this and told them to give her something to eat. That's the word of the Lord. Now, the importance of being there. With this video clip in the background, I'd like to invite you to think that God made sure that just as He was present in the first 6 days of creation, He made sure that although He rested on the seventh day, He made sure, He made an allowance. He allocated the necessary time. In divine scheduling books, He made sure there was time allotted to make sure that He was there and to make sure that you and I were there. The importance of being there guarantees a first-hand experience at anything that happens when you're present in any place, at any occasion, or at any event. With this video, the teaching of the video in the background, I like us to consider and go through Scripture and allow Scriptures to teach us about bringing Jesus home, bringing Him home, and the importance of being there, specifically to fathers this day. I looked into some of research tools, some of the researchers, online research. You can find this at fathers.com. It is a research organization that looks into the statistical realities of what parenting, specifically fathering in North America. And this organization says that fatherhood in America, very important facts that I want to bring up. Number one, 89% of the people surveyed, about 1,000 people, think it's important for children to live with both parents, mom and dad, at home. Again, the importance of dad being at home. Dad and mom being home. 95% agree, of the 1,000 survey, agree that fathers make a unique contribution to the children's life. It means that what dads bring to the table, no one else can bring to the table. It's It's a unique job. It's a unique contribution to the well-being of the family, as brought forth by dads. 97% need to be more involved in the children's education, the survey says. 56% said that 56% of the people surveyed, 556 people of 1,000 surveys said that they still have unresolved issues with their fathers. We're not talking about children. We're talking about adults. 58% said that they spend less time with their children than what their parents did with them. The importance of being there. Now, when we look at the gospel, the story of this synagogue ruler, we must know that God, the miracle of healing this girl, this 12-year-old girl, was not a coincidence. First of all, the story about this miracle finds itself between a demon-possessed, the healing of a demon-possessed man. On the other side of the lake, Jesus just happened to come back from Gadara and healed this man who lived in a cemetery. Then Mark records the story about this 12-year-old girl. And then, almost simultaneously, he also narrates the story of a woman who had a hemorrhage for 12 years. And her condition at the end of 12 years was worse than how it had begun before. And right in between those two stories, Mark speaks about this miracle. Now, on the statistics that I just gave you, 77% of the dads surveyed think they're doing a very good job. 77% think that they're doing a good job. 77% think that they're providing what's necessary for the family financially. 77% we think that we're doing an excellent job and that we're providing for more of the financial needs that the family needs. But another piece of survey that I don't have up says, how many meals a day does a father have with his children? Within 1,000 people surveyed said that 32% say they have less than one meal a day with their kids on a daily basis. 60% say they have at least one meal a day with their children. And 25% say that they at least have 2 meals a day with their children. The importance of being there. Now, you might say, Pastor Oscar, my son he went to college, he got married. That doesn't relate to me anymore. I beg to differ. Whatever we do with our family, our children are going to do with theirs. And the cycle is going to repeat. We live in a society that demands dad and moms to be outside the home. We live in a society that expects both parents to go out and get a job to make ends meet. It is very hard for a dad, now in the context, in the sociological context we live in, it's very hard for a dad to come home and have 2 meals a day with their children. First of all, if the child is a school-age child, the child is not at home. In order for a father to be able to have 2 meals a day with his son or daughter or children, we must assume that he needs to work close by the house to be able to make it back for lunch. Some of us have that privilege. But our working agendas drive us away from the place where we call home. We commute half an hour, 45 minutes, 90 minutes to work. We spend countless and countless hours driving, commuting from one place to another. You may say, well, I don't know where that statistic is coming from, but it doesn't work in LA. This statistic is very relevant visit and have lunch with our children. Most public schools at least have one day in a semester where they invite the parents to come and have a lunch with their kids at the cafeteria. The importance of being there for the children, especially when they're elementary school, middle school, and high school, those are called the formative years. And God has called us as a church to abide, to live, to shine a light in the midst of such challenges. Being there for our kids. The story we read is about a man. He's called the ruler of the synagogue. Just to give you some background, the ruler of the synagogue was not the pastor of the synagogue. The ruler of the synagogue was the person in charge. So that when the Torah was read, when Scripture was read, when people participated in the liturgy, in the program of going through the program in the synagogue, that everything was done and will be done well. There were no voids in the program. This person was in charge. This person was in charge of caring for the Torah, which was a book, a roll as big as this pulpit here. The ruler of the synagogue was someone who had proven to be very respectful man in the religious society, the religious community, but also in the community where everyone lived. So this name Jairus was a very important man. He was a man who had been entrusted with the well-being of the synagogue, was entrusted with the Torah, was entrusted with the easy flowing of the program every time God's people get together in the synagogue. Jairus was a man who was at home. Jairus was a man who was there. Jairus was a man who, when his daughter needed him the most, he said, I'm going to take care of her. Now, when we celebrate Mother's Day, when we celebrate Father's Day, if we celebrate Family Day, for some people that come to church, the word Father does not have a sweet sound in their ears. Because reality does say that not everyone lived with a good dad at home. Being a father is not so much a title as it is a verb. The fact that I have children, or that you have children, does not give us a title of being a father as to be a privileged state of mind or a privileged state in society. But father is more of a verb. It involves fathering. It involves walking with. It involves discipling. It involves discipline. It involves providing. It involves care. All those words involve action. And being a father means I am involved. You are involved. God was definitely involved those first 6 days. And even on the 7th day, he didn't create a long pole to shoot on the remote control and hit the switch button on the direct-to-B box. But he made sure he was involved, even when he rested.